touch drawing right now. Do you want me to announce it?
Sure.
Marcia Finkelstein. Oh, can you hear me? I'm mic'd here. Yeah. Can you guys hear me in the back? Okay, we have a winner, Marcia Finkelstein. Marcia, is she here? Do you have to be here to win? I'm hot here.
Marcia Finkelstein. Marcia Finkelstein, the iPod Touch, sponsored by Newsday. Okay, we'll put Marcia's name on a flip chart in the lobby, and we give you until 4 o'clock to claim it. Otherwise, we're going to pull another winner at the end. Okay, and our next gift, we're doing all three. Susan Young from Realtor.com. Digital camera and a photo printer. Okay, here we go.
I'll announce it, then I'm introducing you.
Oh,
Keep things moving right along.
Lee Frank. Congratulations. Now we have the $1,000 cash drawing, United Northern Mortgage Bankers. I think you can come up. You want to?
Hi. Oh no, we're just raffling it. Pardon. Oh, that's yeah.
Okay.
You guys are running behind. It's
Okay.
cut. All right.
Okay, then you're going to pick the winner for that drawing.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Oh yeah, I think I'll get shot if I win. Oh, let me get out of the way. Okay, this is for the $1,000 cash, and this is United Northern Mortgage Bankers. And if they pick my name, I'm running out the back door. Barbara, is it Haug? H-A-U-G, Haig? I guess Barbara's here. Congratulations. She's treating to lunch. Yay! If you could please come up, Barbara. We're having her come up and then. Yes.
Wow, isn't that great?
Yes. Okay. Let's all give a round of applause and thank United Northern Mortgage Bankers for donating the $1,000. He said no. I offered. He said keep it. Yeah. I offered. Give you a hug up here. Take hugs. All right, congratulations to our winners. We have more drawings throughout the day. I now have the pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker. Stacey Harmon is a licensed real estate agent with 17 years of real estate industry experience. She's a Facebook expert and an NAR Realtor University trainer. Her company, Harmon Enterprises, is dedicated to helping real estate professionals grow their business with effective Facebook marketing strategies. Let's give a warm welcome to Stacey Harmon.
thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me. Good news is I talk fast, okay? So I'm going to get a lot of information in the next 45 minutes. Get your pens out. How many of you got your iPads and you got Evernote? Anybody here going to be taking their Evernote? My people, excellent. All right, so lots and lots to cover today. I'm based in Southern California, so this is a journey for me. It's nice and early for me, but I've had my coffee and I'm ready to get started with you guys. Any of you that are on Twitter, please connect with me there. My handle's Stacey Harmon. Feel free to tweet away. It's a great way to stay connected with me after the presentation, and look forward to following you back there. I also wrote a book, Content Strategies for Facebook, Content Strategies for Real Estate Pages. I'm going to talk a lot more about that in my session this afternoon, Friends with Benefits, Facebook for Profit, okay? So best title of the day, right? Hopefully you guys we'll talk more about that then. I am going to touch on content strategy here today as well. It's an important part of your overall social media experience. But let's go ahead and get started. What my goal today is with this presentation is to get each and every one of you online, effective, professional, and powerful. Okay, so I want you guys to be using the online mediums to be effective, professional, and powerful online. Now, one of the challenges I have as a speaker is I've got this spectrum of savviness in front of me, right? Some of you might be still investigating what the best way to get in front of your audience online is, and others may have been doing it for years. All right, so there's this spectrum of savviness. What I want you to know, how many of you are still feeling you need to have an organized strategy online? How many of you have been doing this for a while, you feel pretty seasoned with it? Okay, so I've got both ends of the spectrum. Here's what I want you guys to know. No matter what you do, sophistication, no matter how sophisticated you are with your strategy, does not have to equate to effectiveness. They're not one and the same. You can have a very sophisticated strategy and be ineffective. You can also be very effective. But that's good news for those of you that are just trying to get started today, because you can have a low sophistication strategy, which you'll understand how to get started with right now, and it can still be very effective for you. Your strategy can grow in sophistication over time. What we're going to be talking about today are the underlying elements that are going to make you effective no matter where you are in the spectrum. Make sense? So there's going to be something for everybody. So let's discuss first, before we get through those elements, we need to understand, why does having a social strategy even matter? You know, why should you be paying attention to the online channels in order to market yourself as a realtor these days? And the reality is, it serves as a validation that you're who you say you are. And today's consumer wants to validate that you are who you say you are. 2 weeks ago, I was at a conference in California called Hear It Direct. They had a panel of consumers up there discussing the real estate perspective from their experience. And Gen Y panel sat up there and said, you know, agents don't really get Facebook. The second I get connected to you, I'm going to go on Facebook and see, you know, if you're who you say you are. And here's a really quick example, and this all happened in 2 minutes time, just 2 days ago. I get this email from somebody who saw me present at the California Association of Realtors a couple of weeks ago, and it was a really nice complimentary note. The very first thing I did was copy her name down at the bottom, throw it into Google, and see what comes up. I'm curious who this person is. I look there, and I get her social sites, and within 2 minutes, I've looked at her Facebook page, I've looked at her LinkedIn profile, and I've looked at her Business Hub, her website. I know who we know in common through mutual connections on LinkedIn. I have a sense for what her geography is, and I know a lot about her all in 2 minutes time. How many of you follow a similar kind of path anytime you're told about somebody? This is what today's consumer is going to do about you. So the reality is, you have a digital footprint, a social media digital footprint online. My goal today is to show you guys how to craft something that reflects professionally for you, and you're proud of what people will find that's going to drive business to you. Because whether or not you want one, you've got one. Let's make sure that we are doing it properly to build business for ourselves. All right, so what is an effective structure? And what I'm not going to talk about today are specific sites. I'm not going to tell you which social channels you have to be on, because the reality is that's going to vary for every single one of you. What I do is I look at what agents across the country are doing, and I say, you know, those that are being effective in these channels, what is it that they have in common? What is the underlying strategy that we can all utilize and pick and choose the channels that'll work for us based on that underlying structure. And that's what I want to talk about today. So the underlying structure is really about a hub and spoke system. So many of you may have heard of this before. Basically, the concept is we're going to have purposefully selected a hub, an online storefront, where we reflect who we are as a real estate agent. So where people go to get information about us in a business capacity. And then off of that, we're going to have these spokes. And these spokes are going to be all of the different places you appear online. And they're going to help support your hub strategy. And this is going to be a purposeful plan. You want your online presence to look like this. So the key is, for those of you who need to be thinking right now, what is my business storefront online? What do I want that to be? Now, the question is, what should your hub be, right? The problem is, this is actually the wrong question. The real question is, what is your URL? When I say URL, I mean your domain name. It might be a personal brand. It might be a company brand. It might be a team brand name. The key is you want to own this element. You need to know what your brand is. Once you own it, which is the key, owning this, such as this agent I work with, you go to GoDaddy.com and you buy your domain, and for $12.99 for 1 year, you have the foundation of a social media strategy. That's all it takes to really get started, okay? So owning it is step one. And this agent, paulmarkmorris.com, that I work with, you know, he did this process. He owns his domain, and it goes to a lovely page that looks like this. Okay, so this isn't enough. This is step one. You have to own it, and once you own the domain, it's going to give you a web presence that has really no merit. But here's the element that matters. We can go back to our hub and spoke. Now that we have that domain that we own and are in control of, we can do what's called redirect it to whatever hub you choose. So this really equates to social media freedom, because suddenly you don't have to have a WordPress website as your hub, which is what a lot of people in my position will stand up here and tell you has to be your hub. Well, the problem is a WordPress website, which, although a very sophisticated solution and a very viable hub, might take you thousands of dollars and weeks to deploy. Months. Maybe you're still working on it. Let's get something that's a little easier up and running now, so you have a social footprint that's reflecting well for you. You can always grow your strategy to be more sophisticated, but simply we have freedom when we own that URL, because it's possible to point and redirect it to whatever hub you select. So now that we have our domain name in our own control and social media freedom, we can discuss what should your hub be. And your hub can be a variety of options. I call it degrees of sophistication. Again, sophistication does not equate to effectiveness, or doesn't have to equate to effectiveness. So all you can get started with a very low sophistication strategy and be very effective. And I like to think of things broken up as there's all these websites that currently exist. We can point that URL to any website that currently exists. Or you can do something that's a little more sophisticated and go with, say, building a WordPress website. And even within that option, there's degrees of sophistication. You can have something that's self-hosted or something that's custom, you know, that's hosted on WordPress.com or that you custom develop. So there's lots and lots of options. So all of you can have something today. And here's some examples. We have, and you guys can type these URLs in. These people have all done this. RobertWatson.com, a broker in California, takes you right to his LinkedIn profile. All you can get a LinkedIn, how many of you have a LinkedIn profile? So all of you can have a hub up today. We have Bob Watson here. It could go to Facebook, to a business page. Carolyn Lowe does that here. There's a site called about.me. I showed you Paul Morris. So he bought his URL, and we told GoDaddy, point his URL over to this bio page, which then has a bio information about him and a bunch of links. Okay? He's looking pretty good online, pretty simply. You can go more complex. All of you probably have at least a bio page on your brokerage website. Why not point your URL, as Susan Piazza does, to her brokerage page? She's in the process of developing something that's more robust. She's doing a WordPress development. This is in progress, going on behind the scenes. When this is done, she'll just move that URL over to the new location. See how this works? Our strategy can start simple and grow, yet you don't have to reprint your business card because your URL is the same, right? Key. Gives you flexibility. All right, so now we have the structure. You're all going to decide what it is that you're going to be your brand. You're going to buy your URL, and you're going to choose your hub. And you can all choose a different hub. If you need help getting your hub up and running, you can visit our booth. We can help you get one of these strategies up and running. But now we need to move into the strategic plan. And there's a couple of foundational elements before I go into 8 principles that really will constitute your social media strategy that I want to make sure we all agree on and understand. The first is that how is information consumed in social spaces? I want to think about how people are seeing the content and experiencing us online. And the reality is that almost every site, in fact, every site, has a concept called a feed. It's some kind of aggregation where when you first log in, you're seeing something that looks like this. This is an example from Twitter. Facebook has it. LinkedIn has it. Pinterest has something similar as well. It doesn't matter the social channel. There's generally a feed that greets people. And it's often the only way they're interacting with you. Okay? So we have to think about how we look in this kind of a situation so that we can be painting a very professional picture that's working for us. So the feed is a core foundation item that we need to understand. It's not that they're seeing our full profile. They're only seeing one little snippet of our account. Important concept. The next is that all social media sites, regardless of what you choose, have some variation of the following elements that we need to be prepared for and maximize to the medium. They all require a photo. They all are going to have some level of display name, Stacey Harmon in this case. They're all going to have some kind of an account name or a username. They're all going to ask you for some level of biography copy or likes and interest. It's key to understanding that depending on the site, this username that you select here, which is a new element that we're not having to, or used to having to use in offline marketing, we don't have this username concept, becomes a really important part of our brand because it often becomes part of the URL or the domain that is associated with our account. And depending on the channel, you might not be able to ever change it once you set it. Some of them are a little more flexible, but some of them you have to know what you're going to be doing before you set it up because you can't change it. So should you put your brokerage name in your handle? Probably not, because statistically your brokerage may change its name. You may work with a different brokerage over time. These kinds of things you need to think about. You can't get out of it in all channels. Some you can, some you can't. So it's just an important foundation to consider when you're setting your strategy. And these are things that are going to impact these 8 consistency principles that I want to talk to you guys about with the remainder of our time today. So if you follow all 8 of these principles that I am going to introduce you to, you will have a rockin' social media strategy. And you don't have to do all of them. It's that over time, and you want to move towards deploying all of them to strengthen and further refine your strategy. And why am I going to focus on consistency? The reason is that consistency really is about perceived professionalism. And the way I like to think about this is, we all know what to expect at the 4 seasons. And why is that? It's because anywhere you go in the country, you have the same experience at a very high level at each of the properties. And it sets an expectation of professionalism. And it doesn't have to be done at a 4-star level. McDonald's does the same thing. Total level of consistency. You know what you're going to get at all of these different places. There's a level of professionalism there that resonates with consumers. I want you to put these same concepts through my consistency principles to work for you and your business using these social channels. So the first one is we need to have a consistent username. I talked to you about how important that username can be. It's an element we don't think or plan for often. And ideally, you want your username to be consistent on all the channels that you participate in. Now, you may choose 2 channels, you may choose 40 channels. Regardless, have it be consistent. Which is more powerful here? This is one agent that I have talked to in the past, and she's like, oh, my username's all over the place. You know, sometimes she uses her name, sometimes she uses her geography, sometimes she says awesome realtor, you know, different types of things. Compare that to this. Which is more powerful, and which, when a consumer finds you on Google, they're going to be crystal clear right away that they've got the right person. Okay? We want to make it easy for them. These little tiny details are going to add up. So you want to try to, as much as possible, keep a consistent username. Now there's a tool, it's called namecheck.com. It's not spelled as properly, it's namechk.com. It'll help you with your username planning. So you can actually put in your desired username and it'll tell you if it's available or not on all of the social channels. So you can do username planning. Now I recommend for most agents a personal brand is good. If you have a common name, you may have a challenge, it might be taken. I would consider adding something simple to it like Stacey, the other Stacey Harmons can't be Stacey Harmon because I've got it. But they could be the Stacey Harmon, or they could be Stacey Harmon now, or they could be Stacey Harmon 808, or whatever your area code is. Area codes work well in this kind of a business. You want it to be something big, not necessarily really specific, because again, we can't change the username quite often. Okay? So it needs to be descriptive of our business for the long haul. You could say Stacey Harmon Realtor. You want to make sure that you're a member of NAR. Maybe Stacey Harmon Real Estate. So those are some options if you don't have the ability to get your name. All right, the second thing is we want a consistent photo. Again, back to how people are consuming information from us through social media. You can see how important that photo, also known as the avatar, is in our marketing. And here's the thing, as real estate agents, we already know that photography sells. It sells your listings, and there's a big difference between the photo that the agent takes and the professional photo, right? Same house. Which house are you going to buy? So we need to take this lesson to our headshot, because in social media, it's about this personal brand and it's about you relating to people, and we want to make sure you show well and we use it consistently across channels, and you need to get a professional headshot. And you need to get one that's contemporary in nature, not dated. It needs to look like you. The other thing is, you know, the real magic in social media is that it really changes the conversation you have offline with your sphere. And if they walk right past you at the grocery store because they didn't recognize you online, we've missed the boat. Make sure the photo looks like you, and then use it consistently across channels. Now there's a couple of tips that I want to make sure that you think about with your photo. The first is, this is a great shot. This guy is a good-looking guy. He's an agent. But look what happens when I look at his profile. Okay, don't chop your head off. So here's one of the lessons. We're very used to using a vertical, rectangular photo in print marketing. In online, it's often a square. In fact, it's almost always a square. So you want to be sure that your photo is cropped as a square. If you certainly can't do that, you do have the opportunity to kind of reposition this thumbnail, like on Facebook, so that it's centered at least properly, but just make it easy and crop it as a square and upload it so that your head's not chopped off. It's a little detail, but it makes a difference. The next thing is your photo large enough? Now, it may seem a silly question, because as I showed you, how most people are consuming your photo is in these little 1 centimeter boxes on news feeds, right? But here's the thing. If people go there or they see your Facebook profile, think about your own behavior. When you connect with somebody on Facebook for the first time that you haven't seen in a while, what do? Heat map studies actually show that everybody's clicking right here to see that photo. And when you do that, a light box comes up with the photo, and this is fine, but is this better? For somebody who's interested in looking at you and relating to you, make sure that you're maximizing the use of the space. Another element is, even though the photo is going to be used small here, if it's too small, when somebody's looking at it on the mobile device, what's the resolution like? I recommend 450 by 450 pixels as a minimum for your online avatar, even though it's often going to be displayed much smaller. But these little details for people that are interested in you will help them feel a little more connected to you, amplify the use of your social media. The photo is very important. Make sense? Number 3, consistent marketing copy. All the sites are going to ask you for something about you. If you're prepared with what you're going to say, it's going to make you much easier to get on these new channels as they evolve and pop up. Just be prepared. Write some copy that is specific for social channels and use it across different mediums. Now, here's the kicker. I don't think it should be the big long bio copy that you're used to putting in your listing presentation is like that one-page bio or on your website. The online reader, especially the social reader, wants it short and sweet. I recommend going through the exercise of formulating something that's around 250 characters. There are several channels, Twitter one of them, where it's got to be that short. They don't allow you more. So how are we going to communicate professionally who we are in that short period of time? And let's use some version of that. You can extend it or shrink it across all of the channels. So there's some good news about the fact that it's so short on social. You don't have to use a grammatically correct sentence, which may freak some of you out. But take a look at this. This is a copy that an agent uses. She calls herself realtor, blogger, creative, strategic, collaborative, effective, connected, energetic, healthy, happy, tad irreverent, focused, and fun. Do you have a feel for who she is? Mention that you're a real estate agent, but what else about you? And this is one approach that can work very well. I don't view her as any less professional because this is not a fully structured sentence. Now, if you want to use a fully structured sentence, feel free, but this is one option. Now, in addition, likes and interests. Social sites are about being social, about people getting to know you. So think through purposefully things that you are comfortable other people know about you that are your likes and interests. I have on mine, I like jogging, I like crunchy tacos, and I'm Pilates addicted. Okay, so you're going to kind of see those kinds of things. I don't care if stalkers know that about me, all right? You all have something that is about you. If you're all about real estate, then talk about, your niche. Or if you love cycling or you love wine, what kinds of things can people connect with you on? And this is going to assist people in engaging with you online, which is important. I retweeted somebody's tweet because I thought they had a nice comment, and he thanked me, and he says, "Thanks, Stacey. FYI, agree about your point about crunchy tacos." Because I say crunchy taco loving person on my Twitter profile. So it gives him some conversation. Clearly, he went and looked at my profile, and now we have engagement. Okay? Give them something to talk to you about. If you prepare these items, this short bio, and your likes and interests, you'll be prepared to move when Pinterest pops up, when Google Plus pops up, whenever the next hot thing comes. You'll know what you're going to say, you can get some version, and then it'll be consistent across the channels so that no matter where the consumer comes in and finds you, they know who they've got, and they can validate you, and they can compare you across the channels. So that's the next point. The consumer might come from a lot of different places where they find you, depending on how active in one channel you are or not. The fourth principle is you need to consistently point back to your hub. So at the beginning, we talked about how each of you is going to pick a hub. It might be different for all of you. Whatever hub that is, if you are anywhere else online, you need to audit that and make sure that you are directing people back to that hub. Every single channel needs to point back to this business storefront. Now, this is so intuitive. It's also so overlooked. Look at this. This is a guy I found, I know, Ian Watt. Some of you may have heard of him. Great job with video. On his YouTube channel, you might index one, Google might index his content, and I might find him on YouTube. Well, look at this. He's got a link right back to his website. It's very easy for me to get back to his hub and learn more about him if I like his content. I found this agent example. Great content. Loved what she had to say. No link. Is the consumer going to stick with it? Let's make it easy. Are you putting those, I call it leaving the breadcrumbs to the consumer back to your hub? If you want to know more about them, can they find out more about you? Can they get in contact with you? Conversely, you want to make sure that your hub is pointing back to all your spokes if at all possible. So now we've got this social thing. Say you developed a website 5 years ago, and you didn't put your Facebook or your LinkedIn or your Twitter links on your hub. Let the consumer who finds you through your website be able to investigate you socially as well. So it should go both ways, but it's very, very important that you're always leading people back to your hub. The next principle is going to be consistent content. And this, honestly, is the hardest part. Creating content is hard, and it's always been a problem. How many of you are just trying to get that postcard out? It'll go out tomorrow, right? You just need to write the copy on that listing. So this isn't a new problem. Copy has always been a challenge, and now we have a bunch more mediums where we need to put copy. The good news is copy and content online can be a mix of a lot of different things. And I like to think of content as part of 3 buckets. Online conversation, actually engaging and talking with people on these different social channels, can be part of your content strategy. Having that conversation can count. So just simply engage, socialize, and network. And this could be 80% of your content online. But this will have a benefit in keeping people engaged with you, keeping your brand seen, keeping your face and your avatar, and people will look at who you are. People can observe your conversations. You're having a direct one-on-one conversation, but the whole sphere can see that. The second content category is creating content. So this is actually generating maybe a blog post that articulates your perspective, or a Twitter note, or a Facebook post that talks about the different elements in your market. Okay? You want to be creating some unique content. This may be a hard part. You might hire somebody to help you with this, but you want to be sure you're creating new content. And the third is you can actually do what's called curating content, which is repurposing the cream of the crop. So you guys are all sitting out there reading the Wall Street Journal, you're reading, Inman News, you're reading industry-specific elements. As long as there's a URL in the content that you're posting, and you write some little commentary or opinion, you can repurpose and filter this information for your audience, curate the information down and share it. Okay? So you want to use these 3 buckets to craft your overall content strategy. And you want to actually plan your content strategy. You want to sit down, time block, figure out what you're going to say when on these channels. When you do this and you combine it with a tool like Hootsuite, which allows you to actually schedule your posts, it gets you out of the problem of, oh my gosh, I have to post today, but the client called and I've got to show properties, or my deal is falling apart, or I just got the offer in, right? All those things are going to take priority in your strategy. All your best intention to get that content posted is going to go out the window. But if you schedule it through Hootsuite, you have the opportunity to keep dripping it out, and then while you're sitting there waiting for that email or that latte on your phone, you can actually manage the conversation that might result from any posts that you are scheduling. The 6th consistency principle that we want to talk about is consistent visual branding. Now, I know I talk to a lot of agents who they want it to look perfect. And this actually holds them up from starting and getting involved in social strategies. Here's my point about that. How many of you think Craigslist is an effective site? It's a very effective site. How many think it's a pretty site? Okay, Craigslist is effective because it has the right content. So if you're going to focus on anything, focus on the content. As you get more sophisticated, you certainly can bring up the level of visual, but don't let a visual standard hold you up from getting involved socially online. However, you will be more powerful and more sophisticated if you invest in a level of consistency with your visual branding. And I have an example from, you guys may know him here, Walter Burns, living on the Hudson. He has, across his social channels, a very consistent look. There's consistency amongst all that he does. And it's not only on his social channels, it's here in his email marketing. And even better, I love this part, it's offline. He has his computer skinned with his brand. And there's a website, skinit.com, that lets you do this to your cell phone, your iPad, your computer. Do you think this is the kind of thing that might generate a conversation with a potential buyer or seller while he's sitting at the coffee shop waiting for the next deal? And if somebody had seen that branding online somewhere in his marketplace? Might they kind of put it together and say something? We have to blend the offline and the online in clever ways. We want to extend those brands across both places. And this is a really nice example of that being done. And that slide's a little dark, but it's all the same branding, okay? The next thing we want is consistent connections. So before social media came along, it's been a tried and true strategy in real estate that we want to list build, correct? The more people that we are talking to, the better for our career. So there is something in social that's about quality versus quantity. I could have a more effective Facebook strategy, say, if I'm connected to the 50 people that are most influential to me in my business versus 5,000 people that have no impact on my business, right? So there's a quality argument. I want you to focus on quality first. But over time, we want to have the opportunity to increase the number of people who might see our message or have a conversation with us. So we do want to consider having connections that are growing over time. And social media really is about these one-on-one connections and relationship building. The thing is, it's at scale. It's this word-of-mouth advertising at scale. You can actually have a conversation and have all of your Facebook friends see it. Have all of the Facebook friends of someone else see it. And when you can amplify your message in that way, it's efficient, and it's going to support your offline business development efforts as well. So we want to list build. We want to list build in all the channels that we are in. You know, on Facebook, it's going to be called growing our friend list. On Pinterest, we might have additional followers. On LinkedIn, number of connections. On Google+, how many people have you in their circle? You know, followers on Twitter. Whatever channels you choose, you want to, over time, have it part of your strategy to increase the connections. How are we going to do that? There's lots and lots of strategies. I'm going to give you several here. The first is you want to make sure you traditionally just promote your presence. You want to make sure you're promoting your presence everywhere you're currently doing business. The email signature is one of the most overlooked. How many of you are emailing a lot during a day? To people that have some kind of a touch to you, but might not necessarily be directly your client already. People are forwarding email messages. Let's make sure that they can get back to our business hub. At least our business hub. And there's different strategies for this. You can see Mike Didelot, he puts just his hub there, and then his hub will allow people to branch out to all the other social channels. And then we've got Raj here who has his hub. He also has links to all of his individual social channels. So whatever strategy works for you, but at the minimum, make sure people can find you online and you're driving them there from the things you're already doing. Where else? Are we including that hub, that business hub, on our business cards, at open houses? Does it change our scripts when we door knock? Instead of saying, you know, are you looking to sell your home? Maybe you'll say, are you on Facebook? You know, I'm really discussing on my business page things that are going on in the community and would love to have you connect with me there. You know, are you formulating these digital connections to people? Direct mail, it might change the content of your direct mail. Instead of saying just sold, maybe you're going to say we're getting social. You know, check out our community board on Pinterest and put the URL there. Might change what's happening when you're cold calling. You got to start telling people as part of your vocabulary where you are online. And if you want to take it up a level too, you can even do traditional print types of things like this. This is a business card, but it mirrors her visual presence on Facebook. So she's pulling her consistency into her print materials with her online look and feel. Just options, things to consider. This is done by a company called moo.com. I don't know if any of you have heard of that. And then the Updesk too. You know, just start talking about it and making sure people are aware of where they can find you so that they can self-validate that their experience with you is the same and what they expect, and you're a professional who knows what you're talking about. You also want to have consistent connections by proactively reaching out and growing your list this way. And social provides a whole lot of opportunities to do that we didn't have before. You know, some of you may have in your daily to-dos to cold call or door knock or do these kinds of things. Now let's start adding messaging and connecting to people on Facebook that we meet at networking events. Here's an example of a client I work with. You know, she's like, "Hi, Janet, nice to meet you at the Children's Hospital event last week, da-da-da-da-da." She's sending her a private message on Facebook, which is likely going to amplify the chance that she'll have that friendship requested. And we want to create what I call as many digital bridges, digital connections to our sphere in every place that we possibly can, so that they have more of an opportunity to hear about us or remember us or stay top of mind. Here's another option. If you have a Facebook business page, trying to grow your fan base there, you know, she's emailing them, "I'm trying to establish a Facebook page for my real estate business. Could you please like my page?" You know, she's asking for these things. I love this too. This is an agent here that wanted to connect with me on Facebook, and she used Twitter to get my attention. So use another social channel. She says, "Hi, I'm a realtor trainer recruiter with Prudential in Indiana. I'd love to connect with you on Facebook if you're willing." Certainly more willing now. So connect with your audience using these different channels. Our 8th consistency principle that we want to focus on is consistent testimonial gathering. The reality is the bulk of your business is based on somebody saying something good about you to someone else. And testimonials and word-of-mouth advertising really matter in our business. And on social, we want to make sure that we are positively endorsed. And you need to work it into your daily process offline to make sure you're thinking about how to capture this with the customers you're already working with or that you've worked with in the past. And the challenge is there's the opportunity to have people endorse you or give you testimonials in almost all of these channels. So you want to try to focus on as many of them as possible. And some of your consumers will be big LinkedIn people, others will be Facebook people. You know, you just kind of want to cater to whatever medium they're most comfortable with. But don't forget about the opportunity in LinkedIn. And LinkedIn just launched in the last couple of weeks something called endorsements, which is a really simple way for people to just, with a click, say this is her skill set. So make sure they endorse you on real estate or your geography. I love this strategy. This is a Facebook endorsement. I would coach your clients on how to do this. The client posted on their wall, which goes out to all of their friends. So we accepted a bid on our condo after just 1 week on the market. Oh, and we wound up selling slightly higher than what we paid in late '08. No big deal. Amanda Dollinger is a real estate rock star. And if you're doing yourself a disservice if you live in the Chi and don't use Chicago Home Partner. So you want to see if you can get your clients to rave about you and suggest maybe they do something along these lines. Now this is actually even taken up a level. They use something called tagging, which is a skill that you can have on Facebook. And you can actually tag Amanda here so that her headline, or when people hover over that name, they're seeing her profile and her brand, her avatar, her name, those detail elements that I talked about, and click through and learn more about her. And they click through to her business page as well. Okay? Really powerful stuff. Don't forget about Yelp as well. Yelp is very important, is going to become even more important. Because how many of you have an iPhone with this thing called Siri? You talk to her? What happens if you ask Siri to find you a real estate agent in, say, San Diego, California? It sorts them by, it critiques and Google's Yelp reviews. And it sorts them by the number of reviews. And here's Kimberly, and she's got 25 reviews on Yelp. And all of a sudden, she's able to come up to a whole new savvy audience. So Yelp's becoming an important channel. All right? So those are my 8 consistency principles. I'm going to get your cameras out and photograph this page, or this slide. Let's recap kind of what we talked about. You want to own your domain name. Buy that URL. Go to GoDaddy.com and pay $13. You can have a social strategy today. Pick a hub and get that domain pointed to it. Okay? You don't all have to pick the same hub. You can pick whatever's going to work for you. And then follow these consistency principles. You want to have a consistent username and a plan. You want to have a consistent photo and avatar, consistent marketing copy, consistently point back to the hub, consistent content, consistent visual branding, consistent connections, and consistent testimonial gathering. If you do all of these, you are a social media rock star. Does it make sense? It's not techie, it's a strategy. It's a strategy. A couple of resources to kind of help you guys on this path. You could take a picture of this one as well. This are all the URLs that I kind of mentioned. GoDaddy, where you can buy the URL, name check for your username. I'm talking about this in my next section, but I have a content strategies book, so you can see that there. Hootsuite, where you can schedule, Skin It to Brain Your Computer, and Moo.com for those business cards. And I can put this back up at this end. My business page on Facebook's a great way to ask me questions. Go to facebook.com/Harmon Enterprises. You can post on the wall there. I also talk a lot about real estate marketing, in particular Facebook marketing for the real estate industry. And I'm going to run out of time on this. I'm going to breeze through this. This is not directly related to social strategy, but it's one of the things that is an underlying success to what your social, in order to have a social strategy. And there's some certain things that I've noticed that I've got and that effective realtors have that enable them to be even more powerful. And one of those is you have access to the internet anywhere you are. Invest in what I've got with me. I bring a MiFi. I bring the internet with me wherever I go. Is your data cloud-based? For me, I use, you have to have a storage solution. I use Dropbox. You have to have access to your emails, contact, and calendar in the cloud, Google Apps. You have to have a task system. I love Evernote and something called GTD, Getting Things Done. There's real estate-specific tools that are going to amplify. Are you doing your listing proposals in the cloud? There's a vendor here, Cloud CMA, does a great job with getting you with a great listing presentation from the beach. Transaction management, there's options like Cartavi and .loop. E-signature, DocuSign, these kinds of things. And then you have to have what I call these windows to your data. So now we've got all our data. Now the device is just a window into that data that's living up in the cloud. You either have an iPhone or a smartphone or a tablet. I personally have an iPhone and an iPad. It could be an Android. It could be one of these other tablets. These are the ones that I use. If you have these elements, you're going to have even a more powerful social strategy because they're the tools that are going to allow you to run your business from the beach. And then I use a notebook computer as well. You can have a tablet instead, but that's the last one, and I use a MacBook Air. All right, so these are the essential tools. If you have more questions, come visit my booth. I'm also doing this session this afternoon on Facebook marketing. We're going to talk about Facebook as a marketing tool and orient you to all the options there. It's far more complex than most people think, but you'll walk out understanding, again, what areas of Facebook will work for you. And this is my contact information, and I'm here all day. I have questions. I hope you learned something. Does anybody feel like they can get up and running? So thank you. And if you need help getting your hub up and running, you can come talk to me about that later as well. So thank you.